Hello children, today we'll be seeing about a new poem and the name of the poem is The Legend of Northland. The author of this poem is Phoebe Cary. Now let's see what information or what message does the author or the poet wants to give to his readers. The Legend of Northland, this is a ballad poem. It narrates a story in short paragraphs. Now, you have to know what is exactly a ballad. Children, ballad means it is all the paragraphs, it contains 4 lines, and in total it has 16 stanzas that tells us a story. They are part of folk culture or popular culture that orally passed from one generation to the next generation. So this poem are short stories wherein it is written in the form of poem. The poet doesn't specify the exact place, but Northland means the area in the northernmost part of the earth, that is near the place of the North Pole. Legend, the word legend, it refers to the historical story that is very old and has been only passed from one generation to the other generation. As you'll be knowing, legends are the word itself, it has a real meaning. Now, what does the poem tell us all about? Now, the Northland is an area near the North Pole, where days are short because the sun rays reach for very little time. Here we see children during the winter, it is mostly observed by everyone. During those periods, the winter season, the duration of night and the rays reach for very little time. And during winter, we see that the nights are longer and the days are shorter. The word they in these lines, they refer to people who live in this region. Also, we see the poet says that the duration of night is long and people can't sleep them through. The poet wants to emphasize the fact that the nights are very longer. Now, what do we see further? The region experiences severe cold condition and it is a snowy area. Now, how is the atmosphere or environment? It is very snowy, it is cold region. Moreover, reindeers are the animals that live in the polar region, which the people used to pull their sleds. Also, the poet says that children look like polar bear cubs and they wear clothes made from fur of the skin of the bear. Now, what we see here during the season where it is very snowy, it is very cold, people usually wear these kind of clothes that keep them warm. So, was in the Northland region. In line 1 of the third para, what do we see? They refers to the elders and them it refers to the children. In addition, the elders tell a strange and interesting story about the young ones. However, the poet does not believe that this story is true. Still, it gives us an important message. What do we see here, children? The stories are told by the elderly people to the children, and these stories can be imaginative, can be realistic, it can even be true. Now, what we'll see what happens in the poem. Now, this ballad, it refers to the time. During those period, in those time, we see that there was a saint named as Saint Peter. He lives in the world and he goes around to preach and give lectures all around the world. That is spiritual lectures to people like all saints do. And then one day an incident takes place. What happens? We'll be seeing. While giving lecture, one day he reached the door of a cottage and where a small woman was making cakes in a fireplace. Saint Peter was very hungry that day as he hasn't made meal or he hasn't had meal for a long time. So he was very hungry. He was feeling very weak. So he approaches the woman. He goes to the door of that woman, a small woman, and he approaches to her. Lady, please give me a piece of cake. I'm very hungry. I'm feeling very weak. Now let's see what the woman does. The woman was very selfish and she did not give him a cake from the store. In its place, she makes a very small cake for Saint Peter. She does not want to share things. However, when she places the cake for baking, she thought that it's too big to give away. The miser woman we see, she again starts making the cake, and she makes the cake near about for 3 times, and the cake, it tends to become larger, and she never gives cake to Saint Peter. Now she did this for 3 times, and this miser woman we see, she started making a smaller piece of cake. She did this 3 times again and again, but didn't give any cake to Saint Peter. She reasoned that when she ate them, they felt small, but when she had to give to them, they felt too big. And finally, she put all the cake on her kitchen and didn't give any cake to Saint Peter. Now, this lady was so greedy. She was so selfish that she did not give one cake from so many cakes she had in her kitchen. Saint Peter gets very angry and he curses the woman because he was very hungry and he felt very weak. Saint Peter said to her that you are selfish and you don't deserve to be a human being. He further adds that God has given you food, He has given you clothing, He has given you shelter, He has given you a fireplace to keep you warm. But you have become so selfish and so greedy. Hence, the woman, she became a bird because of the curse given by Saint Peter, who had to build houses by boring into the wood. Now, you are all aware, children, what do birds do? For food, they have to bore and they have to do a lot of hard work to get their meal, to get their food. The same thing the woman had to do and collect very little food by working the entire day. When Saint Peter, he cursed her, she became a bird and she flew through the chimney. When she saw the bird has a red cap on her head, same as the woman wear. Moreover, when people in the countryside and the children see these kind of birds, their elders tell them the story of the bird and how this bird turned up to be a bird and before she was a woman. So children, what moral do you learn from this lesson? If the woman wanted, she could easily and happily help Saint Peter by giving a small piece of cake or giving a single piece of cake, and she could show kindness towards him. But she did not do it. She became selfish. She did not feel humanity. She did not help others. So what is the use of having so many cakes in her kitchen? So we learn in this lesson, whatever we have with us, we have to find ways of helping others. It's not that how much you help or how much big amount you give in showing your hands, but it's what you have little you can do by your words, by your deeds, by your goodness. So we see that there is always more happiness in giving than in receiving. Thank you.